up for Rhys!
Good evening. It's good to be here. Not actually too sure where here is. I heard laughter. I heard a woman shouting about shit. I thought it might have been Ed Miliband recounting the story. But no, he's a bit of a role model because someone's life who's so awful and still able to go out in public. I can take that to heart about my academic career. See, my academic career didn't get off to a brilliant start. I got rejected by Northumbria. I know, right? But then, funnily enough, Northumbria came back with another counter-offer so ferociously that I actually started my final year of study immediately. That's a lie, but it's a brilliant plot device to accelerate the story. Now, when I started studying, I quickly came across this term, all-nighter. All-nighter. It's a crazy term. Depending on who you speak to, it means completely different things. It's like speaking to a call center, really. Now, to some, an all-nighter is the ability to, on student loan day, walk into a club like Tony Stark and then wake up looking like Tony Blair. To others, an all-nighter is a month before a deadline. It is a meticulously prepared picnic consisting of tea, coffee, cookies, and depending on how much of a knob you are, crisps. To me, an all-nighter is that brown trousers time 24 hours before the deadline. Shit, I haven't actually done anything. Holy Sputnik, Batman, I should do something academic. So, like any good student, I rock up to the library 9 o'clock the night before the deadline is due. I go on Facebook for about 4 hours, and then I frantically Google my question, and then I resort to Wikipedia. But you should never use Wikipedia for your academic writing. But they don't check the references at the bottom, so you track those back. You get some very, very questionable resources. So anyway, this happens. It ultimately concludes in a power nap, and then I awake at about 6 o'clock in the morning. I gaze upon the screen in which I've just written what can only be described as the greatest critique of Tennessee Williams' work I've ever seen for my chemistry exam. So, my arse is now twitching. I'm like, I'm going to fail my final year, I'm going to have to resit. Except you can't resit, you just graduate with this god-awful degree. So I leg it down to the lab. Now, I did biotechnology, hence why Tennessee Williams is a bad example of work. Now, for my final year project, I was working with Pseudomonas aeruginosa that produced biofilms derived from cystic fibrosis patients. Kind of feel out of breath just saying it, to be honest. Now, let that sink in for a little bit. I'm going to hell. Now, like any good final year student, I like to start my day by walking into the lab and voraciously smashing my face off the bench until I could walk through the rest of the day with a hazy bubble of brain damage. Now, why, I hear you ask, or not ask, as the case is. Now, the thing is about Pseudomonas aeruginosa is it produces this biofilm, which is essentially it's a very, very viscous liquid, off yellow colour, which is basically chock full of polysaccharides, and that's Pseudomonas aeruginosa. It's very bad for the lung. For the non-scientists among you, it basically looks like gone-off semen. Now, it's not so off that it's now formed lumps. Just that's just changed colour. I still wouldn't put it in my coffee though. Now, another problem is it's harder to get into work than an EastEnders character. But when I ran down to the lab, I knew I wasn't going to smash my face off the bench. No, I was going to strut into that lab like the magnificent stag of a man I am. Why, I hear you ask, or not ask? It's because I actually got a worker in the week before. It was amazing. It was actually producing this cum in a 6-well place, right? So I waltz in, I open this incubator, and where I'm expecting to see this 6-well plate full of love juice, I am greeted with a void that can only be rivaled by the cranial capacity of Joey Essex. So understandably, I was a little bit annoyed. What with this being my last chance to pass? That's why I was fucking furious. Now, I decided to try to get to the bottom of this. So I go see the technicians. Knock on the office, open the door. Excuse me, Mr. Technician. Have you seen my 6-well plate? He looks at me like, what? 6-well plate. It's got Pseudomonas aeruginosa in it. I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, well, it's a 6-well plate, okay? So there's 6 wells, and there's a plate, right? I know you're a technician, but come on, we can get through this together. So understandably, he was a little bit pissed, and told me in no uncertain terms to go ask my colleagues, which is technician speak for fuck off. So off I go, I find my colleagues, and my colleague is a wonderful Indian lady. So I go up to Liz, and I'm like, Liz, have you seen my 6-well plate? It was in that incubator, but it's not there anymore. Have you seen if anybody's taken it out? Has anybody put anything in? She looks at me and goes, I think I saw Josiane, or was it Jane, put something in there. Now, what you need to know about Josiane and Jane is Josiane is about yay big, and Jane is about yay big. They're both English, but of African descent. They look completely different, but Liz says, I don't know. They all look the same to me. Now I'm looking at Liz, I'm like, that's racist, you can't say that. To which she says, dude, I'm Indian. So anyway, a little bit perplexed by this conundrum that I'm now facing. I go and track down Jane, who I find in a computer room. Now, building up to a dramatic finish here, guys. I'm actually standing on this because I'm about to burst into Mercury, Freddie Mercury style rock and roll. I didn't do rock and roll, I don't do music. I'm just procrastinating now, like my old nighter basically. So anyway, I track down Jane, I waltz into the computer room. I'm like, oh, hey Jane, how are you doing? Finally you're going alright? She's looking for me like, what are you on about, you lunatic? So I said, Jane, there was a 6-well plate in an incubator. It had Pseudomonas aeruginosa in it, produces a biofilm in cystic fibrosis lungs. She goes, I don't know what you're talking about. So I repeat myself. She goes, I don't know what you're talking about. So for the last time, I'm like, the Pseudomonas aeruginosa was in a 6-well plate, it was in the incubator, it's gone. She says, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, my love juice that was in the incubator in a 6-well plate, what have you done with it? By this point, the room is silent, right? All eyes are on me. People are like, fucking mad, man. You right there? The room was silent. Okay? I'm setting the scene now. Tennessee Williams, man. I'm all over this shit. I'm setting the scene. Room silent. Nobody says anything. All eyes on me. Jane, perplexed. She finally says, I haven't even started my final year project yet. I haven't even set foot in that lab. Ooh, right. So now I'm looking around and everyone's tone suddenly changes. And I don't know how to get out of this situation. So I finished the only way I really know how, into a tissue to be disposed of at a later date. That's not true, because I'd probably be in prison. But anyway, I excuse myself and I walk out of the computer lab. And I feel in my pocket. It's crunchy, take it out. Look in my hand. It's the crisps from my all-nighter. And I realise, I'm a knob. Thank you very much, everybody.